Okay, so the book that I'm going to read today is called Chester's Way by Kevin Henkes. And my learning goal when I read this is that I can predict what is going to happen next in the story. Predict means that I can make a guess based on what I know in the story of what's going to happen next. So I'm going to use what's happening in the story to help me, and I'm going to ask some questions as I read so you can try and make predictions as well. All right, Chester's Way by Kevin Henkes. Chester had his own way of doing things. Hello, my name is Chester. I like croquet and peanut butter and making my bed. He always cut his sandwiches diagonally. He always got out of bed on the same side, and he never left the house without double knotting his shoes. Chester always had the same thing for breakfast, toast with jam and peanut butter. And he always carried a miniature first aid kit in his back pocket, just in case. You definitely have a mind of your own, said Chester's mother. That's one way to put it, said Chester's father. Chester's best friend, Wilson, was exactly the same way. That's why they were best friends. Chester wouldn't play baseball unless Wilson played, and they never swung at the first pitch or slid head first. Wilson wouldn't ride his bike unless Chester wanted to, and they always used hand signals. If Chester was hungry, Wilson was too, but they rarely ate between meals. Some days I can't tell those two apart, said Wilson's mother. Me either, said Wilson's father. Chester and Wilson, Wilson and Chester. That's the way it was. What do you notice about Chester and Wilson so far? I'm noticing that they like to do everything together exactly the same. Do you have somebody in your family like that or in your life? Okay, all right, let's keep going. Oh, they love to go on picnics. Once when Wilson accidentally swallowed a watermelon seed and cried because he was afraid that a watermelon plant would grow inside him, Chester swallowed one too. Don't worry, said Chester. Now if you grow a watermelon plant, I'll grow one too. Chester duplicated his Christmas list every year and gave a copy to Wilson because they always wanted the same things anyways. For Halloween, they always dressed as things that went together. Salt and pepper shakers, 2 mittens on a string, ham and eggs. They really are 2 peas in a pod, said Chester's mother. Looks like it, said Chester's father. I love those Halloween ideas, so cute. In spring, Chester and Wilson shared the same umbrella. In winter, they never threw snowballs at each other. In fall, they raked leaves together. And in summer, they reminded each other to wear sunscreen so they wouldn't burn. Chester and Wilson, Wilson and Chester. That's the way it was. And then Lily moved into the neighborhood. Lily had her own way of doing things. I am Lily. I am the queen. I like everything. I'm already thinking in my head what could happen. I want you to think about what could happen with Lily coming to town. Lily wore Band-Aids all over her arms and legs to look brave. She talked backwards to herself sometimes so no one would know what she's saying. I'm Ma-e-Lil. And she never left the house without one of her nifty disguises. I'm noticing Wilson and Chester watching her while she's doing this. Lily waved at all the cars that passed by, even if she didn't know who was in them. And she always carried a loaded squirt gun in her back pocket, just in case. She definitely has a mind of her own, said Chester. That's one way to put it, said Wilson. When Lily asked Chester and Wilson to play, they said they were too busy. When she called them up on the phone, they disguised their voices and said they weren't home. If Lily was walking on one side of the street, Chester and Wilson crossed to the other and hid. She's something else, said Chester. Looks like it, said Wilson. One day, while Chester and Wilson were practicing their hand signals, some older boys rode by, popping wheelies. They circled Chester and Wilson and yelled personal remarks. Personal remarks means they're saying things about them that are not kind. Chester and Wilson didn't know what to do. Just when they were about to give up hope, a fierce-looking cat with horrible fangs jumped out of the bushes and frightened the older boys away. Who do you think that is? Could it be? Are you who I think you are? Chester asked the cat. Of course, the cat replied. Thank you, Lily, said Chester. You're welcome, Chester, said Lily. Thank you, Lily, said Wilson. You're welcome, Wilson, said Lily. I'm glad you were wearing a disguise, said Chester. And I'm glad you had your squirt gun, said Wilson. I always do, said Lily, just in case. I'm noticing a little change here with Chester and Wilson. What do you think is going to happen with Chester, Wilson, and Lily? Afterward, Chester invited Lily over for lunch. You have a muscle mouse cup, said Lily. Of course, said Chester. I do too, said Lily. Same here, said Wilson. Chester and Wilson cut their sandwiches diagonally. Lily asked Chester's mother if she had cookie cutters, and she made stars and flowers and bells. That's neat, said Chester. Wow, said Wilson. So I was predicting that they might become friends, and I'm noticing that Lily likes to do some things kind of like them, but then she does things a little different. Let's see if there's more. That night, Lily invited Chester and Wilson to sleep over. You have a nightlight? Asked Chester. Of course, said Lily. I do too, said Chester. Same here, said Wilson. Something they have that's all alike. Chester and Wilson, of course, they wanted toast with jam and peanut butter for breakfast the next morning. Bong-a-ring, said Lily. Try this instead. This is good, said Chester. Wow, said Wilson. And toast with fruit and Cheerios. They made a face. Fun. After that, when Lily asked Chester and Wilson to play, they said yes. When she called them up on the phone, they had pleasant conversations. And if Lily was walking on one side of the street, Chester and Wilson waved and ran to catch up with her. Things did change. They became friends. That's what we predicted. Chester and Wilson taught Lily hand signals, and she taught them how to pop wheelies. Lily taught Chester and Wilson how to talk backwards. I'm Naslu. Hello. And they taught her how to double knot her shoes. Some days I can't tell those three apart, said Lily's mother. Me either, said Lily's father. Chester and Wilson and Lily, Lily and Wilson and Chester. That's the way it was. For Halloween, they dressed as three blind mice. For Christmas, Lily gave Chester and Wilson nifty disguises, and they gave her a box of multicolored shoelaces, extra long for double knotting. They loved to go on picnics when Chester and Wilson and they loved to go on picnics. When Chester and Wilson told Lily about how they had each swallowed a watermelon seed once, Lily swallowed 3 of them. "I'll grow a watermelon plant for each of us," she said. That's a pretty good friend. In spring, Chester and Wilson and Lily shared the same umbrella. In winter, they never threw snowballs at each other. In fall, they raked leaves together. And in summer, they reminded each other to wear sunscreen so they wouldn't burn. Chester and Wilson and Lily, Lily and Wilson and Chester. That's the way it was. And then Victor moved into the neighborhood. Oh boy, what do you think is going to happen now? All right, well, when we started the story, we said that we were going to make predictions. And when we got through the story, first we noticed that Wilson and Chester, they did everything exactly the same. But then Lily came to town. And at first, how did they feel about Lily? They didn't really understand her, did they? They didn't want to be her friend. They ignored her. But then, what did she do to change their minds? She saved them from the big kids. And that's when they realized, hey, she's not so bad after all. When they started hanging out, they realized that friends can have things they like that are the same, and they can have things that they like that are different. So something that you could do is you could write about a friend. What are things that you and your friend like that are the same? And what are some things that you and your friend like that are different? What makes that friend special to you? I would love it if you would share those ideas with me. Parents, I'd love it if you would have your kiddos do that, and you can send it and share it. It would be awesome. You could share it with your teacher as well. All right, well, I hope this is something that is beneficial. I'm hoping to do more of these in the future. This is kind of my trial run, and we'll just kind of see what you guys think and go from there. Have an awesome day.